Context graphs are booming, and I right now working on a book. And today, I want to talk with you about uh, the promises. Because I mentioned on my previous videos, and you also could read it in my book, that before decision traces, we should have the data traces and connect the data traces to the epistemology and the source of the data itself. But you could read my article, you could read my book about it. And before we get to the decisions, we need to understand that agents are not living in a total isolation. And even if you have the single agent, he interacts with a bunch of other things like the tools, external IPs, and all other things. And it could make the mechanic of the agents quite complex. And if we have the context of the autonomous agents that interact with each other, from my personal experience, the best framework that help to model it, it's the theory of Mark Burgess. It's the promise theory that saying that instead of actions we have the promises, and the agents are responsible only for his own promises. He assesses his own promises. We could also have the network of the other agents that act as witnesses or record the promises and assess them also. But actually, the main idea that before the intent and action, you have the promise to do something for somebody. And actually, it's quite simple idea, and they actually work as this locks, because from one side you have the promise to do something for somebody, from other side you have the promise to consume the result of this work. And it's important to understand that it's always the pair that should match, and if they both satisfied, then the magic happens. And to make the traceability, we need to have the causal graph of the events, where the events are actually the set of the promises from the both sides, with the information about the satisfaction and assessment of these promises. And we could call it the promise graph. So the promise graph actually consists not from the decisions. The promise graph actually consists in one of the layers of the RAV promises, and maybe the witness information about the assessment of the promises, the self-assessment of the promises. And the promise graph could be contextual for the concrete session of interaction of the agents, and could be short-living, or it could be long-living, basic, even for the reputation system, if agents interact with the different agents, and then he could assess if these agents are holding the promises, how much, for example, these interactions cost, and all other things. So the promise graph could be the basic not only for the decisions, but reputation system, assessment of another agents, assessment of effectiveness of executing the tasks, and all of the things. So it's quite a broad topic. So one layer it's promises, another layer it's a satisfaction or assessment of the promises. The next layer in this graph, because I propose this multi-layered structure, actually it's actions that was a result of the promises. And on the actions, we need to understand the intent, we need to understand if it was forced, and all other things. So it's a multiple obligations and intents and actions based on the promises. The next layer, yeah, for sure, that you have the actions, they have the consequences, but these promises could be driven by the data signals or the promises from other agents. So we form some kind of uh, subgraph for the promise with all the decision traces and all the signals and all the information that actually could form the promise from the agent side. And in this case, we have the data traces, data signals, promises and ask from the different agents that form your own promise. And this promise subgraph could be the basic for some kind of the decision that leads to the action or do not lead to the action. Actually, we should be aware that actually you could have the promises that haven't satisfied, or you have the promises or ask that was not satisfied and not formed, and all these are crucial for the casual analysis, because in casual analysis we analyzing not only the things that happens, but quite often analyze the things that prevents something to happen and all other things. And in a result of all this complex multi-layered architecture, on top we had the decisions, we have some deliverables and assets, and for sure now we could assess the result, and now we could make the cognition loop that will analyze all these promises and results, if they was effective, and how to actually optimize them and maybe form new learning patterns. So I recommend you to read a couple of books about the promises. The promise graph is relatively new concept, but it's much better describe the interaction of multi agent systems. It's much better give us the basics for the casual analysis. It could form the reputation systems. It could form the proper interactions, and it could be local for the sessions and tasks, or it could be global for multi-agent networks. It's quite broad topic that deserve the separate book, but I decide to make the quick introduction. So read my book. I will leave the link in a video. Follow my articles, and I keen to hear your feedback. Subscribe to our channel, because YouTube is free, but for books you need to pay. But also in books you have more detailed and deep information with some snippets of the code. So see you next time. Choose.